So yeah, let's talk about QRA. And did you ever get to intercept any bears or any
Yes,
Russian
yes,
aircraft? Can you
yes.
tell us a few stories from that, Ray?
I'm a member of the 10 Bear Club. I mean, it
Ah,
used
right.
to be quite regular. I mean, normally we get notice that of something's going to happen. And for example, if we knew that the Russian Navy was sort of operating in the Atlantic, then we could be sure that we'd be up intercepting bears. But there were other reasons. I mean, if the bears, sometimes they sort of went off to Cuba with a couple of
Yes.
bears, we'd intercept them then. Sometimes the bears would come down into the North Sea to have a look at the oil rigs.
Oh, did they
Not
really?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay.
That was another time they'd be intercepted, and they were quite allowed to do it. They were in international waters outside 12 miles from the coast. But probably the most time we'd see them was practicing one of their war missions, when we knew that they would be sort of practicing launching their standoff weapons from quite a long way away from the UK, obviously up to the north. So sort of we would all our missions on QRA were invariably way up north in what we call the Iceland Faroes Gap, but working always with the Americans, probably out of Keflavik, and the Norwegians out of Norway. But it was a real sort of it was an air defence sort of coordinated mission. But sometimes we would. The difference was we were at in Germany. I was on 5 minutes readiness all the time, but we were very close to the border. At Lucas, we were on 10 minutes readiness. But you normally got much more warning of a scramble. Not always. Sometimes you did get instant scrambles, but most of the time you had plenty of warning, so you knew what was coming. And the tanker would be scrambled from Marham in those days, and it gets scrambled. So we knew the tanker would be scrambled and coming up the coast, and we joined up with the tanker, and up we went. Sometimes, for example, if we knew that there was going to be a lot of activity, then a tanker deployment would actually come to Lucas, and they'd operate out of Lucas as well. So we'd work together. So we'd had plenty of notice. The difference was, because one of the difference was the Phantom, the INAS had to be sort of aligned, and that takes a little bit of time.
Yeah.
So I think to meet a 5 minute readiness without having the INAS aligned all the time would have been very difficult. So 10 minute, we could do 10 minute, no problem. Sometimes we wouldn't say a word. We'd speak to nobody. People would know that what was going to happen, and we'd go. And we wouldn't say a word until we were very close to where we were going. That included, because we get airborne normally and sort of meet up the tanker, and it was very important sort of we stayed topped up with fuel. So we top up before we left the tanker to go and carry out whatever intercept it was, which might be at medium level, might be at low level. We'd make sure we had fuel, and the tanker would be there. We'd come back to it and take more fuel off it, and, until we'd either finished the job, or the tanker didn't have much more fuel and had to go home. In those days, the tankers did not carry; they carried a good amount of fuel, but of course nothing like what the Voyager, the A330 Voyager carries. And I went flying in an A330 yesterday.
Yeah.
So that was nice too. So it was interesting, and we used to scramble at all hours of the day and night. I can remember sort of intercepting Russian bears at 3 o'clock in the morning, and of course, being as far north in the summer, there was plenty of light. In the winter, there was plenty of dark, and we would intercept and shadow day or night. We would obviously always identify the aircraft, and they would know that whether they probably knew when we were taking off, for all I know.
Exactly.
And then we'd shadow them just to watch what they were doing, and just having a look. And particularly, for example, they might be sort of dropping sonars and things like that with their navy. You just watch what they were doing.
And did you always go up in pairs as well?
No, sometimes you were single, sometimes you were a pair, or you could even be more. I used to really enjoy the QRA missions. Because it was operational. It was a long mission. You were looking at the other side. It was fascinating seeing these. The Bear was a very large aircraft.
Yeah.
But whether it was Bear or Badgers in those days, yeah, it was always fascinating. And of course, we'd take photographs. I mean, we'd take photographs, and the photographs would go off to the intelligence world. I probably can't tell sort of, you know, they spot changes, and
Yeah.
they know what it's for, and
Yeah.
to them.